Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Author Horne Big30's lawyer does an interview on Vlad, and look at the way he's real evasive on what he's saying. He don't speak too much, but he's answered the question, let it be known, because now this is his 6 minutes of fame. Excellent lawyer. I'm gonna break down from a street point of view exactly what went on in the case from the actual complaint that Vlad is gonna read, and I'm gonna give it to you to bring the reading into visual from a unique Mecca audio perspective. All right. All right, you know what it is, unique Mecca audio, man. We here with Author Horne. We're gonna get right into it. He's gonna speak on the case, how the case came about, so that y'all need to watch this and share this so that you can let your friends know how this moved forward. All right, how this came about.
So let's talk about allegedly what happened. And this is what the feds are laying out. Not that this is necessarily true or not. And this is an active case, and you're the lawyer, so there's certain questions I understand that you can't answer, but I'm just going to go ahead and lay it out based on what everyone is facing right now. So at 1 p.m. on January 10th, 2026, the alleged victims flew to Dallas, Texas. So this is Gucci Mane, his head of security, a second security, as well as his cameraman, Matt, and someone named BP. And according to the feds, Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty were scheduled to meet because Pooh Shiesty was upset about the terms of his contract and he wanted to be released from the contract. So he asked Gucci Mane to come to Dallas so they could meet about business. Anything to state about this?
All I can tell you, and I think I'll keep saying this over and over again, the facts that are alleged in the criminal complaint, we view the facts very differently from the government. And as it relates to Big30, we really view the facts very differently than the government.
All right, so let me break that down so y'all understand where we at with this, right? He's basically saying that Gucci Mane, the alleged victim, flew to Texas and he brought his cameraman with him. So that shows that his intent was to make a video. But then the government is saying that Pooh Shiesty, Big30, and the rest of them, they went there with assault with rifles in a bag. So the government is saying that that's their intent. So that's what he mean by it's different views. You know, they're saying, oh, Gucci just went to go sign a contract, and, negotiate a contract. And Pooh Shiesty went there to force the signing of the contract, is how this case is playing out. I'm trying to keep it real simple to the point one this young man to speak, because he speaks a little slow and I don't want to speed it up. I just want y'all to listen a little faster.
It's not our belief that Big30 drove to Dallas to meet with Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty to commit a robbery and a kidnapping. He was there to record music. He had recorded music prior to that day. He had recorded music along with other artists. I think it'll come out in that particular studio. And that was a particular studio that Pooh Shiesty was working out of while he was on home confinement in Dallas, Texas.
Okay, and the government is going to say, then why do they need duffel bags of guns and artillery? Being that Big30 just went there to make music. Pooh Shiesty went there to make music. This is what the government is going to say. And then Pooh Shiesty's lawyer is going to say, no, they had the guns if there was guns. We're not conceding that there was guns, but if there was guns, they had guns because he's a known figure and he got a lot of gang banging haters and all of that. A lot of ops. So I can see why my client would have a gun if he did have a gun. but I'm not conceding that he had a gun. You see how the legal jargon play around here? Let's finish right.
Right, because Pooh Shiesty got out of jail, I think, about 100 days ago after
100
doing
days.
3 years on a 5-year bid.
Correct, but he was still under federal. So even though he was released to the halfway house and eventually put on home confinement, you're still considered to be in custody. And so
You understand that? He was released from the prison, but he was still under BOP custody. That's why he got the phone call that he got saying, you ain't where you supposed to be at, and we're not letting you go out to go play or rob. So take it back to the, stash house. Let's go.
he was still considered to be in custody and allowed, I think he was allowed to work, which is why he was able to go to the studio to record.
Okay, so based on the federal paperwork at 1:45, Gucci Mane, along with his head of security and his second security, they arrived at the location, which was a music studio, which was part of a bigger office building. And when they arrived there, the recording studio was closed. So while they're waiting, they went to the liquor store, they bought some liquor and some plastic cups, and they went back to the studio. Now, Pooh Shiesty's father called the studio owner multiple times, and eventually the studio owner answered around 2:53 p.m., and he found out that he was trying to book the studio, so they went ahead and opened the studio at 3:15.
Okay.
So at 3:39, an employee at the studio arrived to help with production, and Pooh Shiesty and his dad were outside, and the feds claimed they were having some sort of argument over the phone. Now, at 3:43 p.m., a few minutes later, Pooh Shiesty's dad, your client, Big30, Baby Slime 375, KD, CMO Damn Fool, Mookie Roo 375, Glizzy 375, and DeMarcus Glover, they entered the building on the east side. They walked through the lobby, and they were going to the studio, and there's video footage of, photographs and so forth of them actually coming to the studio. So it's established that this group of people did go to the studio at that time.
No, I believe that's what the government is alleging, and I don't think I think there are certain facts that we will all agree, about, and I agree that they were there, and I think the government will be able to show that via video camera. They'll be able to show that from the owner of the studio. I think where we kind of the story differs will be in whether my client engaged to cross state lines with the purpose of kidnapping and robbing Gucci Mane on the 9th.
So he's basically saying that the case on Big30 hinges on they have to show that he had motive and this was his intent to cross state lines and commit this robbery. We know that's going to be an uphill battle for the government to prove because they was there making music. They have nothing but a bunch of hearsay, and they made music in there the day before. And they didn't know it was going to turn left, and Shiesty was going to allegedly have to pull out, the AK type handgun. I don't even know what that is, but they said an AKA type handgun is what Shiesty pulled out. I mean, if he had it with him, which like his lawyer would say, we're not conceding he did, so we're not even going to say allegedly because we're saying we're not conceding. If he had it with him, then he didn't anticipate it going left, but the government going to say, but he had it just in case it went left, and it went left and he used it. The whole point was he wouldn't need a gun, blah, 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 and his lawyer would say, no, he wouldn't need a gun because he's Pooh Shiesty and he has ops. And this is where it's going to go the back and forth. But Big30's lawyer is emphatically saying that he's pushing the theory, the line, the constitutional issue that Big30 didn't have the intent to rob anyone when he crossed state line. Now, if Pooh Shiesty called him and said, yo, come on over here, we're going to force you to do sign a contract and and they need somebody to say that. But I want y'all to understand this, right? Y'all got to understand this, right? Y'all definitely have to take this ride. Now, Pooh Shiesty is charged with this kidnapping, forcing the CEO to sign the paperwork, having these comrades cross state lines, but they have nothing but a bunch of hearsay. So what the government do is they grab 8 or 10 of your comrades and they offer the least involved the lowest deal they could offer them, or even probation, or even immunity. Immunity means that you're free from all prosecution. So imagine a government going to these dudes, they all know that they're looking at life if they get found guilty and take it to trial, and the government say, hey, if you tell us that Big 30 came across state line because he got a phone call from Pooh Shiesty to come stick up Gucci Man to make sure that he signs this contract, and whoever you bring, they can keep the spoils from the stick up, meaning the watches and all that, from them. And what's crazy is they said when they was leaving that the white dude asked him, can he get his watch back? It sounded like that was a friendly robbery to me, because who gets robbed and asks for your things back at the scene of the robbery unless you felt comfortable and something went left? So they may have been talking nicely to them when they came in, just holding chit chat. But when it was time to go to work, when it was work call, that's when them things jumped up in their face and everything changed. And when the things got out their face and everything calmed down, then now the cameraman is thinking, well, we back to where we was at. So can I have my watch back? Are you serious? You really robbing me after we were so cool? And they said, man, don't you understand? We with the Shiesty gang. We Shiesty. You see, our boss went to do a stick up for $2,500 and a little bit of weed and dropped the bag with 40 grand. It wasn't about the bag. It was the thrill of the excitement. It was the power of being in control. It was the power of taking what you want. It was never about the money. This really isn't about the money with Pooh Shiesty, because he got plenty of money. He just treated himself to a $500,000 Rolls Royce. All from the spoils of first day out. So it ain't about money. With Pooh Shiesty, it's what we call in the street the principle of the thing. And the principle in this situation, if y'all don't understand, is that this dude think that he could control me when I'm Pooh Shiesty and I'm in charge, and I've always been in charge, and he knows that's how I get down. He trying to try me for a sucker. How he gonna tell me he's not gonna do what I tell him to do? I told him I need him to sign that contract to get this big $15 million deal for my brand, even though you tied to it, but you done let me down already with not being there for Big Scar, allowing Scar to pass away accidentally while I was locked up, not paying for the funeral, asking for the chain back. Is you crazy? This what Pooh Shiesty think. Is this dude crazy? And at the same time, Gucci Man looking at him like, dog, you got a gun in my face for me to sign a contract that you know ain't gonna be no good. Is you crazy? So they're having two different conversations about crazy. Which one do y'all think is the craziest? The one that has the gun in the face, or the one that's sitting here looking at the gun in his face? Saying, how do we get here after he done allegedly violated this man's family like he did while he was in prison? Put that in the comments, man. Let me know which one you think, so we get where we coming from with that. Let's get back to this, right?
Okay, so as everyone's in the studio, according to the federal paperwork, the victims overheard Pooh Shiesty talking on a cell phone to his probation officer. And he was asking if he can get some rec time to be out. And his PO said, no, you cannot be out. You need to remove, you actually need to return immediately. Whereas Pooh Shiesty agreed. He was wearing an ankle monitor the whole time because he was still on house arrest. So at that point, according to the paperwork, Gucci Mane told Pooh Shiesty they could reschedule a studio session. So this was more than a meeting. It seemed like they were going to the studio to actually do music?
Again, like I told you, my client had been there the day before recording music and had been there multiple times to record music with Pooh Shiesty. And again, there were other artists that had come there to record music with Pooh Shiesty, and that was the studio that he was working out of in Dallas. So that doesn't surprise me that's.
Yo, can you believe that though? Pooh Shiesty's at the joint, right? And he gets the joint, bring. Hello, who is it? It's your PO, what you doing? You know you ain't got no business away from the house where you're supposed to be at right now. Nah, no, I just came out to get a slushie. Nah, get your back in the house. Okay, but I'm almost there. I just need a couple more minutes. I say, get back to the house. Oh, okay, I'm on my way. Y'all get out. Come on, we gotta hurry up. Give me the bag. Put me down. Yo, come on, sign the contract. Hurry up because the PO want me to come back. Is this the craziest thing? And the crazy thing is they rap about this. The fans listen to this. And then when it plays out in real life, then they judge them and say they crashed out. Their whole life they've been crashing out. My whole life I was crashing out. But when you crashing out on the solid ground we standing on, it's called survival. He's surviving the best way he know how. Somebody don't want to give you what you want, you pull a pistol in their face. That's where he comes from and where he's still standing. Gucci came from that. He's no longer there. So now he went to the meeting. And I bet you, right? Because I seen the joint with little TJ and Offset, right? In Florida. Could you believe these dudes is out there in public in the casino fighting in flip-flops? Yo, I seen flip-flops everywhere. Do you think Gucci Mane went in flip-flops? Put it in the comments. Let me know if you think Gucci Mane was that comfortable that he went to go meet up with somebody named Shiesty with flip-flops after he done allegedly violated his family member after he passed and asked back for the jewelry. You think Gucci was wearing flip-flops? Because at that little TJ casino joint, I seen flip-flops everywhere. I couldn't even tell who flip-flop was whose. You know how embarrassing that'd be, the police putting you in handcuffs and you walking away in your socks? And you're in a public place? That's like going to the mall and getting robbed for your shoes and got to walk back to your car. But this the world we living in. And this is what we're trying to prevent the young people from going down. But Pooh Shiesty get a call. That's the craziest thing ever, man. He get a call. I mean, if that ain't a sign from God saying, man, I'm trying to look out for you. God used that probation officer as his vessel to reach Pooh Shiesty to let him know we're trying to get you away from the shiestiness. And Pooh Shiesty said, hold up, one last hit. Let me do this one last hit. I'll be back at the crib. I'm on my way. Y'all get out, hurry up. Sign the papers. Yo, this is let's ride. This is crazy.
Studio was booked to record music.
Well, right, because if it was just a business meeting, it wouldn't be at a studio. They could meet anywhere.
That's right.
Right. But in this case, they're meeting at a studio. Pooh Shiesty tried to get more time from his PO. His PO said, no, you need to go back home. So basically the whole studio session in and of itself got canceled at that point.
Correct. And I think at some point you saw in the video where everybody left.
So Gucci Mane told Pooh Shiesty they could reschedule the studio session. But according to the feds, Pooh Shiesty wanted to speak to Gucci privately in the attached recording room. Gucci agreed, and they entered the room with Gucci, Pooh Shiesty's dad, and Big30, according to the complaint. And I guess there was a window in the recording room so the people that were still in the lobby could actually see inside, right?
That's according to the government. And again, I think this is where our case differs from the defense perspective. I think we have a different view of what happened in that room that day.
Okay, so at 3:43 p.m., according to surveillance footage, Pooh Shiesty's dad, Big30, Baby Slime 375, KD, CMO Damn Fool, Mookie Roo 375, Glizzy 375, and DeMarcus Glover entered into the building. Now, they walked into the lobby, but then, according to the paperwork, Mookie Roo 375 could be seen on video exiting the office building and coming back with a bag slung over his shoulder.
That was according to the testimony from the federal agent from Dallas.
Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit hazy. So inside the control room, and this is Gucci's there by himself, his security guard is outside the door of the studio, and his other security guard is actually by the car that they drove in. So inside the room, both the rooms in the studio, there's no security, it's just Gucci, his people, and Pooh Shiesty and his people. So this is where it gets a little hazy. Inside the control room, the feds say that Pooh Shiesty pulled out a contract which terminated his agreement with Gucci and told Gucci Mane to sign it. When Gucci declined, Pooh Shiesty became agitated and they started to argue. Now, Matt, the cameraman at BP, could see, inside the recording room, and originally it seemed like they were discussing business, but then when the argument started to ensue, he texted Gucci Mane's head of security, who was still in the lobby. Anything to comment about that?
If there was a disagreement between two men that are in business together, there was a disagreement between two men that are in business together. Again, that doesn't make it a robbery or a kidnapping.
Okay. So according to the paperwork, as the argument started to ensue, they say that Pooh Shiesty told Big30 to get his bag. Big30 complied, and he left the recording room and came back with a bag. And they said that Pooh Shiesty pulled out what appears to be a black AK-style pistol from the bag and pointed at Gucci Mane. Now, who is saying this part?
I have no idea, because in the criminal complaint, there's no allegations of Big30 ever having a gun or pointing a gun at anyone.
Okay, well, it said that Big30 at this point did not point a gun, but they're claiming that he went and got a bag, gave it to Pooh Shiesty, then Pooh Shiesty pulled a gun out of the bag.
I can't comment on whether that happened or not. I wasn't there. But again, it goes into this narrative that we have a very different view of the facts versus the federal government.
Well, as the complaint goes on, they're saying that Pooh Shiesty demanded that Gucci Mane sign the release paperwork. And then at one point, Gucci Mane did sign, and Pooh Shiesty gave the paperwork to his dad. During that time, they're saying that Gucci was not allowed to leave because of the gun involved. Now, as Gucci is signing the release paperwork, they're saying that Big30 pulled out a cell phone and started to record Gucci signing over the paperwork. Now, is this recording actually a real thing?
Yeah, before you answer that, let's take a ride. Relax, y'all. I hope y'all don't mind, me letting it run out. I want y'all to really hear what they got to say so you could hear and understand what I got to say. So right now, what they're saying is that Pooh Shiesty, right? See, you know what the get out of jail free card is? Y'all ever played Monopoly growing up? Remember get out of jail free cards? You got one of those, you get locked up, you automatically get out. Okay, well, there's two get out of jail free cards floating around right now. Major get out of jail free cards. The first one is the contract. There's rumors and speculations that Pooh Shiesty's father's been a CI for years and he's working with the government. Now, that means if that is true emphatically, that means that Pooh Shiesty's father would have to cooperate with the government until his last breath, or the information that he's been giving them that they wasn't using, they'll be able to reactivate, even though if he was telling the crimes he was telling on that they got convictions on, they'll be able to bring it back and charge him. So he had that to look over his head. And then now with this case, being that he already has to cooperate, so with this one he has to cooperate, so they're going to really squeeze him. So they said that Pooh Shiesty gave his father the get out of jail free card, which is the contract. So now they got the contract, which is the get out of jail free card, right? If he gives that up, because you remember Queso and his pops? Let's hope this don't turn out like that, but I'm just saying. Pooh Shiesty's father could give up that contract and he'll walk out of jail a free man right now. If Pooh Shiesty's father give up that contract right now, put in the comments if you disagree. I want anybody to be crazy enough to disagree and put why. if you're going to talk crazy. And a matter of fact, I'm going to put my number, because this ain't to disrespect anyone. This is just to open up the eyes of the youth and the elders that's watching this to know that it's not worth it to get involved in the street, because they got all kinds of tricks and trades. So feel free to call me. And I got one of the best lawyers that does research that his name is Mark Stevens. He helped me with my case. If I get in trouble, you know, that's who I want sitting next to me. So if you know somebody in trouble and you want a good consultation, I think he charged something like $750, $1,000. I think it's maybe $1,000. $1,000 to read over the case, you know, and to give you a full detailed analysis of what you need to take to your lawyer to point out that your lawyer may have missed or it deliberately is missing. But Mark Stevens is the man. My number is up there if you're trying to get in touch with him, right? Just leave a voicemail so that I know in a text, you know, if I don't answer, because I might be busy today. But Pooh Shiesty's father has to get out of jail free card with the contract. And then Big 30 also has to get out of jail free card, which is this alleged video. Do you challenge me? Any one of you rat bastards and flip-flop wearing and public trolls, right? That's right. Do you challenge me that Big 30 would walk if he produced that tape of Gucci Man signing like they said he allegedly has? Put it in the comments, let me know. But let's ride back to this. All right.
We haven't gotten that deep into the case where we've received discovery. But I feel pretty confident that there's not going to be a video of that.
And that's Big 30 who's alleged to be taking it. That's what it is. Big 30 grew up with Shiesty. Big 30 ain't no rat. So, you know, he gonna hold his man down. His man allegedly called him and said, yo, come check me, son. I got beef with this dude. Ain't faking. You know what I mean? He said, but what is it? I don't want to talk on the phone. Come here. You know, come to Houston. So he flies out to Houston, get to Houston. Pooh Shiesty said, here, get the bag, put the guns in the bag. We get ready to go do this hit. I only got a couple minutes because the PO don't even know I'm leaving, so I'm going to run over to the studio. Gucci Man going to meet us there. He got his cameraman, nigga sleeping. He wearing flip-flops and everything. And you know how unique Mecca Audio feel about flip-flops. He wearing flip-flops coming to the meeting, so it's going to be an easy stick. I'm just going to throw the Draco in his face, and I'm going to tell him to sign it. Big 30's loyal to him. He gets nothing out of that other than loyalty and standing next to his man, holding down his childhood friend, because that's what we do in the hood. Even when you hold them down for stupid stuff, first we try and talk him out of it. But if he say, man, I'm going, you know what I mean? When we're in the hood and we deep in the hood, we going anywhere. We ain't even thinking. We ain't thinking, you know, where I can say it now that at 62 years old, well, if I'm telling him not to do it and he knows it's wrong and he said, but he's doing it anyway, you know, I'm just going to remove myself from the situation and let him go crash out by himself. That's what a civilized, sane man do. But when we in the trenches of the street, we're not civilized. And we're not trained for anything but survival. And, you know, that's where that's at. So that's why Big 30 said, come on, dog. You know, and he went with him. He didn't even put Big, 30 in a bad situation, other than, get the bag. He ain't say, take the gun out, hand it to me, and you hold the gun on him while I go get the bag. Now, that would have been pulling him in, but Big 30 gonna beat this. I got Big 30 beating this. His lawyer's confident, he know what he's doing, he holding it back. I got Big 30 beating this because, like I said, he don't have a motive. He don't have anything to gain. Anytime someone do anything, right? Even when somebody bring you a message, let me give you some jewels, right? Because, we like to ride. Anytime somebody bring you a message, don't worry about the message. Worry about the person bringing the message. Worry about the messenger. What's the messenger motive? Why do you want to come tell me that he said he wants to kill me and you're not going to go with me to kill him? Oh, you want him dead, but you scared to do it. So you're trying to put me in a situation to do it. So you're telling me that he's going to off me so that I go off him. Then you could lay back in the cut. I go to jail. He's gone and you go back to your life. That's also survival. But let's get back to this, man.
Okay. Well, but even if there was a video of Gucci signing, unless he's saying I'm being forced to sign this, Gucci could have just agreed to sign. They could have just worked out a deal right then and there.
Or you think maybe they got a video with the AK's type handgun at his head while he's signing? Could they just having fun, filming it for themselves? Never thought they would have got caught. Never thought anybody would know about it, other than they'll have the little proof to look back at, like they did on Menace to Society with OG when he, you know, old dog when he did what he did in the grocery store in the beginning. Let's figure it out.
That's correct. I mean, but again, like I told you earlier, that has nothing to do with Big 30. He's not signed to that label. He has no interest in Pooh Shiesty being signed or unsigned with 1017. I mean, it doesn't.
No motive. No intent.
Well, after the release was signed, the feds are saying that Pooh Shiesty took Gucci Mane's wedding ring, watch, earrings, and cash.
What they got to do with Big 30, he's going to say. Come on, dog.
I can't comment on any of that. I wasn't in the room. I can comment on the fact that I believe that while Pooh Shiesty was locked up, he didn't receive any funds from Gucci Mane. And his music was still making money.
Right there, right? I see, that's what I'm saying. I love this lawyer, but I don't agree with him saying that. Because you just gave them a motive, which they already know. But, you know, you just agreed that there was a motive with Pooh Shiesty, you know, for him to harm Gucci Mane because Gucci Mane stiffed him when he was in jail and robbed him when he was in jail and let him down with, you know, doing the right thing for his family member that was also signed to the label, 1017, when he was in jail. Did you hear what he just said? He just said that he can tell you that Gucci Mane ain't do what he was supposed to do. So that's telling you that. That means that that man has a gripe. Not good, but everything else I love what the lawyer did, not taking nothing from him. Just wanted to point that out, that you have to watch what you say. And that's why they tell you anything you say can be used against you in a court of law.
And if there was a debt owed to Pooh Shiesty, I mean, I believe there was a debt owed to Pooh Shiesty.
You see?
So I don't represent him. So I don't know.
So you're saying he did this because there was a debt that he felt Gucci Mane owed him? So he may have done this? I don't think that should have even been said coming out of your mouth, because you're really protecting Big 30 and you're doing a great job with this interview. So this is not to bash him.
Okay, so after Gucci Mane signed the paperwork, Pooh Shiesty gave the paperwork to his dad, asked him if the paperwork was good. Shiesty's dad said actually needs a date, so they gave it back to Gucci. He put a date next to it, and then that was it for the alleged contract signing. But then this is where things get crazier. So as Gucci Mane, Pooh Shiesty, his dad, and Big 30 exited the recording room, the remaining subjects, KD, CMO Damn Fool, Baby Slime 375, DeMarcus Glover, Glizzy 375, and Mookie Roo 375 pulled out AK style and AR style guns and started to rob BP and Gucci's cameraman Matt. BP was pushed to the couch. CMO Damn Fool searched his pockets and stole his wallet. BP's chain necklace, which had a 1017 on it, was stolen. And during the robbery, Glizzy 375 allegedly threatened to shoot BP for moving, but Pooh Shiesty told him not to do it. Now, this part of the situation, and the victims, BP and Matt, actually testified to this whole thing, and Matt had scratches and bruises on him and so forth. What's your comment on this?
Again, we have a
Right there, I think he should have just said, man, those are not my clients. That don't have nothing to do with my clients, so I don't want to speak on another client's issues. That's all I would have said.
very different perspective of what happened. And again, Big 30 is not alleged to have done anything when that occurred. And I think if you look at the video when he's coming there and leaving, you're not going to see him with a weapon.
Okay, well, the cameraman Matt got choked from behind, almost losing consciousness, and he was robbed of his Rolex watch, Louis Vuitton bag, which had other watches in it, and there was air tags that were actually in the bags that they took. Now, this is where Big 30 gets pulled into the situation again, because as the robbery was happening inside the studio, the feds are saying that Big 30 walked over to the studio door to the lobby, closed it, and blocked it with his body, preventing people from leaving. Now, Gucci's head of security tried to get in and try to push their way through, but they're saying that Big 30 barricaded the door. With handguns drawn, Gucci Mane's head of security and the second security partially got the door open, but then realized they were outnumbered by a bunch of other guns that were in the room. So this is where your client gets thrown into a bigger situation.
Again, the way the federal laws work, I mean, okay, this is a federal case because they're saying that he crossed state lines coming from Memphis, Tennessee, or coming from Tennessee, entered into the state of Texas to commit a robbery and to commit kidnapping. That was his intent. So the government has to prove that he had the intent, and that was his reason for coming there. And again, as I've explained, they recorded music in that studio multiple times, and they had recorded music, from my understanding, the day before. And that was his reason for being there. So I think you still run into the issue of the intent.
Well, the intent is going to be hard to prove. I get that. But even if you take the intent out of the equation, they're still saying a crime occurred in that studio.
Well, but now the feds are involved, so there has that. If it's a state case, right, then that's different. But this is a federal case, so part of what they have to prove is that there had to that he had the intent of coming across state lines to commit these particular acts. And what's telling to me is if Pooh Shiesty had this gun drawn on Gucci Mane, why isn't he charged with a 924G or 922G?
Good point.
What is that?
Felon in possession of a handgun. Because he's a felon.
Okay, so you hear the feds taking on state cases sometimes, but can the state take on a fed case?
Of course.
The feds can opt out of taking this case and hand it over to the DA in Dallas, and they can decide whether they want to indict it or not. Absolutely.
Yeah, because the feds could say, yo, this case is too small for me. It's not enough evidence. I'm not even going to waste my money on this because it's an uphill battle. Turn it over to the state. Y'all look at it, see if y'all want to spend your money on putting it together to bring it to life. But right now, Gucci Mane not cooperating, so we don't want to deal with none of that. That's how they could do that. But I'm out of here. Oh, before I go, cop the book of Rowan Harlem at rowanharlem.com. Cop the book of Rowan Harlem at rowanharlem.com. Cop the book of Rowan Harlem at rowanharlem.com.
Cheers, cheers, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.
Fresh out the can of 26, he back on the strip, getting back in the mix. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Real. Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. The Instagram page and the YouTube, you could go and visit. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, Mecca audio.
Mecca what? Mecca audio, Mecca what? Mecca audio, Mecca what? Mecca audio, Mecca what? Mecca audio. We gon' do it like we gon' do it like we keep it moving like
Get it live like 2 G's in the 90s. Drop top beamer so shiny. I let shorty go, she was wine. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spin a couple bands on the dapper Dan. You be back again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a roaring uptown. Baby Horne uptown, Dominican bust downs. Now we on the positive, you we got a lot to give. Now you trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take heed, homie, lend a ear. He started in uptown, he gon' finish there. But now it ain't about selling drugs, buying cars. It's about buying property to make the community yours. So we can get back to the cheers, cheers, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime. Fresh out the can of 26, he back on the strip, getting back in the mix. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. The Instagram page and the YouTube, you could go and visit. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, Mecca audio.
Mecca what? Mecca audio, Mecca what? Mecca audio, Mecca what? Mecca audio, Mecca what? Mecca audio. We gon' do it like we gon' do it like we keep it moving like we gotta do it like
Get it live like 2 G's in the 90s. Drop top beamer so shiny. I let shorty go, she was wine. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spin a couple bands on the dapper Dan. You be back again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a roaring uptown. Baby Horne uptown, Dominican bust downs. Now we on the positive, you we got a lot to give. Now you trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take heed, homie, lend a ear. He started in uptown, he gon' finish there. But now it ain't about selling drugs, buying cars. It's about buying property to make the community yours. So we can get back to the cheers, cheers, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime. Fresh out the can of 26, he back on the strip, getting back in the mix. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. The Instagram page and the YouTube, you could go and visit. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, Mecca audio.
Mecca what? Mecca audio, Mecca what? Mecca audio, Mecca what? Mecca audio, Mecca what? Mecca audio. We gon' do it like we gon' do it like we keep it moving like
Get it live like 2 G's in the 90s. Drop top beamer so shiny. I let shorty go, she was wine. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spend a couple bands on the dapper Dan. You be back again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a roaring uptown. Baby Horne uptown, Dominican bust downs. Now we on the positive, we got a lot to give. Now you trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take heed, homie, lend the air. He started in uptown, he gon' finish there. But now it ain't about selling drugs, buying cars. It's about buying property to make the community ours, so we can get back to the. Cheers, cheers, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime. Fresh out the can of 26, Heat back on the strip, getting back in the mix. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Real. Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. The Instagram page and the YouTube, you could go and visit. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, Mecca audio.
Mecca what? Mecca audio. Mecca what? Mecca audio. Mecca what? Mecca audio. Mecca what? Mecca audio. We gon' do it like we gon' do it like we keep it moving like we gotta do it like
Get it live like 2 G's in the 90s. Drop top beamer so shiny. I let shorty go, she was wine. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spend a couple bands on the dapper Dan. You be back again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a roaring uptown. Baby Horne uptown, Dominican bust downs. Now we on the positive, we got a lot to give. Now you trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take